We'll start again. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj's daily online discourses. I welcome you all and thanks for joining. My humble obeisances to you all. So today's class will be given by His Grace Vrsabh Prabhu on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13. Prabhuji, I will share the screen with the verse. Can you see the screen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Naskrityam Naracharam Narottamam Devi Saraswati Yachat Tarajana Purirayat. So the verse goes like this. Dahyamane Gnibirdehe Patyupatni Sahotajem Bahistita Patim Sadvi Tamagnim Anuvekshatim. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While outside observing her husband, who will burn in the fire of mystic power along with the trudged cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. Purport. Gandhari was an ideal chaste lady, a life companion of her husband, and therefore, when she saw her husband burning in the fire of mystic yoga along with his cottage of leaves, she despaired. She left home after losing her 100 sons, and in the forest she saw that her most beloved husband was also burning. Now she actually felt alone, and therefore she entered the fire of her husband and followed her husband to death. This entering of a chaste lady into the fire of her dead husband is called the satirati, and the action is considered to be most perfect for a woman. In a later age, this satirati becomes an obnoxious criminal affair, because the ceremony was forced upon even an unwilling woman. In this fallen age, it is not possible for any lady to follow the satirite as chastely as it was done in Gandhari and others in past ages. A chaste wife like Gandhari would feel the separation of her husband to be more burning than actual fire. Such a lady can observe the satirat voluntarily, and there is no criminal force by anyone. When the rati became a formality only and force was applied upon a lady to follow the principle, actually it became criminal. And therefore the ceremony was to be stopped by state law. This prophecy of Narada Muni to Maharaja Yudhishthira forbade him to go to his widowed aunt. One more the verse and translation. Danyamane Dnibirdehe Patyupatni Sahotaje Bahistita Patim Sadvi Tamagnim Anuvekshyati. While outside observing her husband, who will burn in the fire of mystic power along with his thatched cottage, his chaste wife will enter the fire with rapt attention. Om Magana Tibrandasya Gana Janna Shalakaya Chakshum Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bhishtam Saptam Yena Bhuttale Swayam Rupam Kadanmayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapala Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijanam Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Banuka Jalapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tamta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vindavaneshwari Shri Shabanu Sutedevi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasna Bhutale Srimati Candramauli Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasna Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashate Shatarine. Krishna dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I don't see myself in the screen, at least, don't know. So today I would like to excuse myself for speaking. Actually, as a brahmachari, usually do not speak, do not study, do not actually learn, or do not even do anything about ladies or about women. And it's not such a Brahmanical thing, the brahmachari thing to do this, but because of the preaching purposes of this age, where young people are so confused about their natures, their duties, their habits, and what they are, what they're not. It is useful for a preacher to know some of these things, to know some principles of woman-man energy, of the Dharma, of each role of the body that we got, and to understand the conditioning we got. So in this regard, I would like to please ask for blessings for everyone who is listening this live or later, to give me a blessings to understand this topic myself properly, without discrimination, and in a pure state of mind. Yes, today is like we're speaking about chaste ladies who were in the Vedic times, so following such a sublime principles in goodness that there is no fault in things they were doing, not at least in this behalf of even following their husband in the burning fire. Of course, one thing actually came to my mind when I was reading this. Gandhari was a chaste lady, and she was following Vedic principles of chastity, shyness, and dedication to her husband. That such a deep love and attachment happened between her and her husband that she couldn't bear the separation. It is written here, the entering of a chaste lady into a fire of her dead husband is called a satirati. The chaste wife, like Gandhari, would feel the separation of her husband to be more burning than actual fire. But one question came to my mind. What would a Vaishnavi do? Would a Vaishnavi feel a separation from her husband so much that she will actually want to enter the fire? Or is Vaishnavi actually developing attachment to something else, to someone else? Because even in our relationships, even is it like a brahmachari with brahmachari, is it like a temple president to his superiors, seniors, is it to wife, woman, or any? We are putting the soul, between soul, we are putting Krishna in the center. Actually, why are we taking care of each other? Why are we hanging out? Why are we opening the mind to each other? It is because we want to satisfy Krishna. Interestingly, they say in the scriptures that we have to develop loving relationship with the devotees, isn't it? That we have to associate with the devotees. But association to the devotees, it's not a goal by itself. Just to, kind of have a weekly gathering with the devotees itself, it's not a goal by itself. The goal of this satsanga, which means to discuss eternal topics, is to actually feel more connected to Krishna by our together endeavor. This is actually what satsanga means, not kind of a chit chat. Of course, it's good to kind of it's valuable for us to know each other in different ways. But the biggest connection we will feel when we are helping each other to connect to Krishna. Then we'll feel so grateful for the people that were helping us connect. So in this regard, what would a Vaishnavi do if her husband leave her body? I'm sure it will be more in the lines of praying for the soul and knowing that the soul is eternal, and that actually dedicating her life to Krishna was the point of the beginning and in the end as well. And that she will just continue serving Krishna. Of course, maybe there will be also kind of maybe there is exceptions to that as well. But this is what a Vaishnavi does. So the question comes, nobody, especially today, for some reason, even I notice between in the karma world and the bhakti world, people do not like to speak about principles of womanhood, principles of manhood, because it's kind of feel like you're judging someone. But it's not about judging anyone. It's about actually understanding our nature. Until we come to a pure devotional service, until we come to a pure absorption into Krishna consciousness and nothing else is actually bothering us, nothing else is like consideration for us, we are going to have to handle our conditioned nature. And it's good to know how to understand our conditioned nature, how to know what is pushing, what is these forces that are pushing us, how to understand them and how to overcome them, how to channelize them, that at least it will be pious and in the goodness. Is that a problem then? Is it a problem then to speak about women like as principles of a Vaishnavi, or principles of a soul in a woman body? Of course, the moment we are so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that there is not a single aspect of our lives or a single second that we are not serving Krishna. And then, when a Kadashi comes or festivals comes, there is no difference between a festival day and non-festival day, because we are serving Krishna constantly anyway. So, the festival day is just like serving Krishna in just a little different way. Just like a food for thought. That we have to come to the level when we are serving constantly every day like it's a big festival and we are fully engaged. And then, then we surrender in the sense that we fully depend on Krishna to allow us to serve him, to depend on him in all our aspects. So we will leave up to you and up to the mentors to see which of us are on which level. Are we Vaishnavas already, or are we aspiring Vaishnavas, or we are Kanishta, Madhya, Uttama? We will leave it up to you guys to figure out and to see for yourselves. But until then, at least what we can do, let's just kind of speak about few principles of our conditioned nature of the souls in a woman body, which doesn't apply always to the Matajis that we interact every day, but it can be. Because I'm sure that we saw many different things happening in the yatras regarding this. My first question was regarding a soul in a woman body and the soul of a man body, just to try to understand the first biggest principle. They say that Srila Prabhupada also explained in his purports. You can take off the verse. You can put devotees' pictures. Is to understand why is man body much more conducive for spiritual life. So soul in condition of a man body and soul in the condition of a woman body. Even though we are all prakriti, just to clarify, we are all souls. We are prakriti. We are women, all actually. Prakriti, for enjoyment, to be enjoyed in different forms. We can be gopas as well. We can be, we can be servants, and we can have a spiritual male body, but we are still enjoyed by Krishna. Thank God. So the main principle is that the man body is much more conducive for spiritual life. But you can say, okay, but isn't it that it's a woman's nature to serve? And we're speaking about pure devotional service. So isn't it easier for the woman body, or a soul in a woman body, to serve and to be actually much more higher Vaishnavi, because she's already serving, she has the tendencies. But there is a catch. Conditioned women serve because she is attached to the person. She's attached to a concept. She is attached to something she will gain from it. And many times, many seminars, they are mentioning that when we are going for a spiritual. So I'm not saying that this applies to anyone. I'm just saying as a general thing. Maybe you notice some people like that. That for souls in a woman body, religion and religious practices is really like we will see like a lot of religious women, isn't it? It's a social gathering for them most of the time. It can be really much social gathering. And you can see in the example of Shiva's first wife that she couldn't restrain herself on going to the ceremony to her Daksha, her father, who then insulted Shiva, and then she burned. Social gathering, attached to social gathering. So souls in a woman body are more attached to religion. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is said that for a pious man, a spiritual man, he has to engage his wife into religious activities as much as possible. Right? But the soul in the man body, it is much easier for him to practice spirituality. The essence of religion is spirituality, because it is much higher dose of detachment and acting dharmically. It doesn't matter if we get something or not. Many times preachers, especially like a big preacher, sannyasis, notice that in many yatras are collapsing because of souls in the woman body which are not so fixed in devotional service, start to be unsatisfied and then start to make all the politics. And then they kind of push many weak-minded devotees in a male body to kind of go with the flow and with the politics. So it's like can be crazy. And then they say like an interesting sentence. They say, if a woman is not happy and satisfied, she will destroy anything. We're speaking about persons who have put their interest before Krishna's interest. And of course, we are all in the madhouse. We are all getting cured, and it can be crazy, of course, So it's not a general thing. It can be happening, and I think that we can always find an example in any aspect. And of course, it is here for the leaders to understand this principle, so that they can actually engage those persons before they make a big danger, a big destruction towards ourselves and others. And I have to say that I saw here in Croatia an example of a young Mataji doing destruction, doing like such a big politics of a young Mataji, like big politics of like, trying to take over the government or something, like, the authorities, to take out the authorities down. It's like, you're a young Mataji, you should be just chanting and trying to serve and find a husband, Why are you in the politics? It's like it's such contradictory. But it actually shows this really powerful energy that souls in the woman body have, and if they are not channeled so much, so if they are not channeled, engaged, they can be really destructive. And many times in our yatra, at least, we had the big problems always with young Matajis, even though they were showing such a big signs of pure devotional service. It's like, oh, I cannot live without Sankirtan, I cannot live without deity worship, my life is, fully fulfilled in serving Krishna. And then in just like, just one moment, you understand that she was running away with the brahmachari, interestingly enough. Because this conditioning nature, of a bodily condition nature, we are speaking about bodily condition nature of a souls in the woman body are 9 times stronger than the male body. They say speaking about lust, but it's not like a physical lust. It can just be attachment, to be attached to something. But men are also attached to something, even attached to their detachment as well. Vairagis, Yagi, or Mayavadis. So for a female soul in a female body, it could be much harder for her to be fully detached and fully be renunciate, to be a full sannyasi, because sannyasi is only renunciation. That one's renunciation. It's a really rarely like a black sheep. It's not even a black sheep. It's like a ultraviolet, invisible red sheeps or something. Really, really rarely that persons can, in a female body, endeavor and endure such big renunciation and austerities, and they feel peace of mind and satisfaction. It's really rarely. And there is examples already in how I was going around, just sharing some kind of course, it's not general principles. I'm just sharing what different things I saw in practice and with my colleagues, because we kind of like to kind of see these dynamics going on, so we can better understand that there is like a young Mataji in Czech, and they have a farm, and she's from a devotee family. She's working like for Krishna, for devotees constantly, and she's like, if I would be absorbed so much as she is now at 15 years old, I'm sure that I will be a pure devotee by now. But interesting, then she's so engaged, but there is one thing in the back of her mind, and it is, who is my husband? Where I'll get husbands? And of course, such Matajis, even in the temples, even though they can show, especially as the young ones, show a big dedication and love for Krishna. Just it's always an option. If like, can I get a man? Can I get some shelter? Something that he will care of me, who will take care of me, who will help me to enjoy life. So as well, and this young also lady, even though fully engaged, that it was really kind of inspiring for many of us. She was also still looking for a husband, and now she got servant of one sannyasi, really rigid sannyasi. She captured a heart of a servant. So it's cool. I'm really looking forward for them. So I have few more principles really interestingly to reflect on, to have in mind, not to judge anyone because of it, because we all have a conditioned nature. We are just trying to figure out how to not offend devotees, how to not to deviate from our spiritual practice, and to understand this and help others who maybe have some conditioned nature, they don't know about it, how to help them and protect them and ourselves. So that's why we are always having these things in mind. So when, let's say, young Matajis are coming to the temple, we know how to deal with them, in a sense, to protect them and to already prepare them for the next stage in the more like sattvic way than a Gandharva, kind of a hunt way that usually happens. So I would stop here. It's 24, and very few more I can share, but before that, I would like to open. Is there anyone that would like to reflect on any of these points? Of course, I do apologize if I said something that sounded offensive, exclusive, or something. It's just like a few aspects of things to reflect on. And to understand also big thing, that Gandharvi, even though she's chaste, and she is like, she has all these Vedic principles, she's still not a Vaishnavi. She didn't still give herself to Krishna. And for her, because she didn't give herself to Krishna, it is good for her to finish one life with a meditation, deep meditation of her husband, to get a man body, so that next life, with more detachment in her, she can maybe actually meditate on Krishna, like Kunti Devi did. And for sure, Kunti Devi directly went, and there is a quote where Srila Prabhupada said that Kunti Devi has the highest intelligence. She's not like an ordinary woman, because she saw Krishna as he is. So, let's open up. Anyone comments, corrections, wants to reflect on it, or any aspect, please let me know. I hope everything's okay.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that class. So, dear devotees, as usual, to make this a little bit more lively, interactive, I would appreciate if we can turn on our cameras, we can talk. And any questions related to this topic, relevant topics or points of discussions, please, you can ask. You can put it in the chat window as well if you're not able to speak, and I can read it out on your behalf. Thank you. So, Sridevi Mataji, have a question? Please go ahead.
I'm done for it. I'm finished now. Please don't kill me.
No. Very nice lecture. I really appreciate the thought with which you have presented it. And I don't have question. I was thinking more in terms of commenting, if I may, Bishop Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Christ, all glories to Gurudev. Your point is very well made that so many young ladies, young, not so young, middle-aged, old ladies, so many varieties of ladies are coming to our temples. And when they are single, they are not having shelter, it can really upset the whole yatra because their needs, when they are not being met, because the emotional needs of women are very different as compared to a man. She needs affection, she needs attention, she needs personal one-on-one care. Women being softer by nature, they're geared towards motherhood. So when that need is not met, so many things. So in a yatra, it can become very difficult if the women are single and not settled in their life in a proper ashram. If they have not been able to enter Grihastha ashram, they can become very unhappy, several of them. And they're still maturing in their Krishna consciousness. So they're not totally fixed up in Krishna consciousness either. They're maturing, but certainly they're not fully matured or fixed up. So then it can lead to a lot of unrest and turmoil when mismatches can happen because they get desperate. Then they settle for somebody who is not fixed up in Krishna consciousness himself. And so many things go on because this is Kali Yuga. So we are paying the price of Kali Yuga by seeing all these things going on. In the olden days, the parents' duty was to see that their daughter is married to a proper person and is properly settled, and that she is well taken care of, and then the couple together progresses on the goal of life. But in today's world, even if you find a proper match for your daughter, who knows if it will last? Even if you do manage to get her married, there are so many problems. She can again become divorced, again become single, have children, and then have to take care of them. Like all sorts of things are going on in Kali Yuga. Many men also are simply not trained for Grihastha ashrama. They themselves may come from broken homes. They've only grown up with mother. They don't even know what it is to have a male figure in their life.
So they are grown up boys.
Yeah, they are feminized. Many men are feminized today because there's no male figure around to teach them what it is like to be a husband, to be a father. And so they are in turn looking for a strong woman to act like the male so that they can continue to be like a female.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah, and many of the young girls have to become like men because they see their single mothers behaving like men. So you see how the role reversal is taking place. So all kinds of things are going on psychologically, things are twisted around and so many problems. Kali Yuga is really full of problems. So it takes a lot today for a marriage to work and for a marriage to sustain. It's a big deal. In Kali Yuga, if a man and a woman stay together, it is considered glorious for life. Single marriage together is considered glorious. That's how bad it is in Kali Yuga. So we have to very carefully take care of these young, not so young, middle-aged. I know 54-year-old and 56-year-old ladies who say, I want to get married. Why? Because their needs were not met. See, a girl matures as she grows, older. She becomes a mother, then she becomes a grandmother, then she has a social, group to interact with. All that is bypassed. You come to Krishna consciousness, your needs, emotional needs have not been met. So then you're 54, 55, and now suddenly you want to get married. When it's time for vanaprastha, So a lot of things are happening. Just my 2 cents, Prabhu. Sorry for speaking so much. And my apologies for not being able to attend your previous class because I was in Kolkata. I was very far away for the whole day. I had gone for some passport work. So I could not attend your previous class. I wanted to apologize for that.
Oh, no, please. Thank you. Wow, like thank you for quoting like a Grihastha ashram in a glorious position in Kali Yuga. And it's like, it's really interesting, you know how they say, I think it's like in the last, one of the last cantos, that the one who is going to be able to maintain his family in Kali Yuga, it will be like a successful person. But then farm communities, it's much easier to maintain everything, isn't it? To raise everything in the farms. Even they say, I think it's like in Krishna, in the 10th canto, it is mentioned with Nanda Maharaj, like birth of Krishna. They said that because of woman being in the nature, all of her feminine qualities, even bodily features, are actually increased because of actually being connected to the nature. And that's why all the gopis are all like beautiful women or something, you know. So just to put in that aspect.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And thank you, Mataji, for your perspective and the detailed analysis. Much helpful. Scarlett Mataji, you have a question? Please go ahead and ask.
Yes, thank you very much for the class today. In my understanding, Gandhari, she did everything by the rule and regulation that was taught then at that time, right?
Yeah.
So everything that she did, it was what it has been said in the Shastras, in Vedas, in law book, in monologue book, and everything, that the woman has to be just take care of her husband, be abiding, and so on, and so on, and so on. So actually, she didn't do anything wrong. She did obey, indirectly, she did obey Krishna, right? Because all the rule and regulation comes from Krishna, right?
Yes.
So
Sure.
she did actually obey Krishna, not directly, still. It was by the rule and regulation at that time, what was written in the Shastra book, in the Veda book, right? Or
Yes.
have I understood
And
it wrong?
she got to the result. So her reward for being a chaste woman was to get a male body next life and to gradually advance further. As like if a Shudra would practice his dharma of a Shudra, so it's a person who is attached to sense gratification, to woman, and cannot be independent. So he was like, you know, obedient servant to Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, and he did his part. And then next life he was promoted to a higher level. So they didn't do anything wrong, but we as Vaishnava know that we can do much more. You know, that we can actually attain the pure goal of actually going back to Godhead in one lifetime, in this lifetime. And this chastity, then this chastity and everything that is Gandharvi doing, it's helping us to achieve that. Because then we will be like, then the modes of nature will not be so aggressive on us. They will not be like, we are trying to get, you know, to practice Krishna consciousness, we are trying to get rid of modes of passion and ignorance. So if we are still drinking alcohol, you know, it will be much harder to practice Krishna consciousness. So as well, if we are like fighting with, you know, our partners, and there is even like a really nice purport in the 9th canto, which is speaking about different kings, different dynasties, different queens, and as such. And it is like one thing mentioned there, that even if a woman gets married to a wrong man, but because she is chaste, obedient, and satisfied the man, she will conquer the man. She will conquer him. So I'm saying to this my sister constantly, that if you just do your woman role, you will conquer the man, and you will have a nice relationship, and you will you will be able to kind of practice your spiritual life really easily in that regard. And but of course, if you don't have a spiritual, like if you don't have a spiritual life and you still do obey all these laws, then you you get the next step. But material step, we want, it's not wrong. We just want to, we can go higher. This is the point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other comments, thought-provoking questions? Shilpesh Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Vrsabh, Hare Krishna, the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, I wanted to thank both Vrsabh and Sri Devi Mataji for some really, really amazing insights I've gained today. It's very powerful what you people have said today about, I guess, the women's form in this day and age. And yeah, a lot of people will find it controversial, but we see it all around us. Like if I look at my generation, my parents, my grandparents, they were very, very chaste, and they still followed the Vedic principles, the Vedic ideas. And even if you do have a good family today, and you bring up your children right, you could just see the influence of Kali Yuga on them. The girls are led astray very easily, even though you give them the best. Not necessarily led astray, but even if you give them everything they need, you educate them, they're doing well, but it doesn't guarantee anything today in life, like a good marriage. And things are really, really kind of falling apart in that. When we see that all around us in our younger sort of generations, like it just doesn't seem to last anymore. So yeah, some really interesting insights on that. I think Srila Prabhupada said that the whole women's liberation movement is just designed so that men can enjoy women more. It wasn't really any form of liberation in that. So yeah, it's interesting. And today, women are encouraged to be soldiers, fighter pilots, and all sorts of careers that, I don't know how it affects society as a whole. So yeah, it's a really interesting subject. And thank you for your insights today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And yes, unfortunately, yes, women are not protected. They are exploited, and they are even kind of they don't want to even be protected. And there is one interesting, I think there is one interesting comment. I actually took it out that kind of these women that don't want to be protected, they actually want to enjoy their body. They want to enjoy what they have, the senses, the body, the features. They want to enjoy, but they want to, by being enjoyed, they want to enjoy it. And so actually they are asking to be abused. They're kind of trying to call it out to be abused, because then in their mind, they're thinking, I'm using my body in a full potential. I'm using all my organs. I'm feeling all these sensations, and everything what is stopping me, like obligations, like children, is stopping me from experiencing this, then I'm going to take it out. I'm going to leave it out because it is taking out from my enjoyment. And yeah, but you can see that, who is losing more? Who is losing more, a man or a female? Who is losing more? I think Srila Prabhupada said once that female is losing more, especially if she gets pregnant. She needs to be protected. She doesn't trust anyone. She doesn't know how to, to be attached to someone, or to be dependent on someone, and there is not a qualified man as well. I think that this Krishna consciousness movement has a lot to give to this totally destroyed world. Just giving a brahmachari training to karmis, come here and we'll show you how to be a human being. Like many young people are now trying to understand that, what we are teaching us is not enough. So we are just gonna try to exploit this more and explore this more and try to give them Krishna consciousness. If nothing else, just be a human being at least. You know, it's like maybe you're not going to start chanting or be, you know, surrender to yourself to Srila Prabhupada's mission, but at least, you know, learn how to be a human being. This is what kind of my kind of meditation in the Brahmacharya ashram here is to establish a program for everyone, for like all the men to be qualified men in the end. I hope it has sense.
Thank you. Sridevi Mataji, you have a question, comment, please go ahead.
I wanted to mention that in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that those who are born women have been men just in the previous lifetime who have been very, very sensual or attached or involved and not very, you know, spiritually, advanced. And now they have taken birth as women. So it is interesting because we keep changing. Women who are very attached to men, they take birth as men. Men who are very attached to women take birth as women. So like this, we have kept on flipping for so many lifetimes. Sometimes man, sometimes woman, sometimes man, sometimes woman. And this goes on until we come to Krishna consciousness and we realize, oh my God, what have I been doing? You know, this lady Ratnavali, she writes about her experience being a brahmachari. She was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. And as a brahmachari, she met that time he was a he. He met with a very severe car accident and gave up his body very quickly. He was only 19 or 20 years old, but he was attracted to an Indian lady in the congregation. And he took birth as an Indian lady. And she writes about her experiences. Now she's now that he is she has become a she. And she writes about her experiences, understanding slowly, little by little, that she was that brahmachari initiated by Prabhupada who got attracted to an Indian woman and now has come in a female body. So it is, all these things are like revelations for us to understand how many times we have done this and how much entanglement there is when we do not attach ourselves seriously to Krishna. We will keep on doing this again and again, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, unless we are really careful. So something to think about. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, great points. Like, it's like, it doesn't matter, like, even though that doesn't matter like which position we are now practicing Krishna consciousness. It is we get the shelter of bona fide spiritual master. So this is like already like, doesn't matter, you know, just you know, go through it until the end and don't let your conditioning kind of pulls you down in the lower modes. And it's a good point that, you know, just because maybe you have I think even like some female devotees with better karma has a better predisposition for spiritual life than, you know, just like having a mad body and in the lower modes, you know. What's the point of that, you know? So it's like, I think in the end, as I said, like we're just moving from one to another, and it is I find it useful to be aware of like all these kind of strings that are pulling us in different ways, that to understand which strings are pulling, you know, which kind of bodies, so that we can understand, we can predict and understand what will be the needs, as you said, of young brahmacharinis, what will be their needs, and so that we can prepare for it and we can organize it as best as possible to counteract the craziness of the Kali Yuga. And yeah, so let's see. Thank you.
Thank you. Scarlett Mataji, you had your hands raised, so I don't know whether it was from before or you have another comment or question. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to mention an incident this is for the sati. This is also in some parts of India mentioned as Johar, where basically especially in Rajasthan, which was subjected. This is the western part of India, which is the land of the Rajputs, where they were subjected to a lot of onslaught by the Mughal and the Muslim invaders. And to prevent torture and rape and abuse by the Muslim invaders, they would then commit this sati rite or johar rite, as they would call it, by actually falling into the fire. Because they didn't want it themselves to be abused by the Muslim kings and the invaders. So they were, and very, very bloody and sad history has happened over many times in that part of the world. From hundreds to thousands have committed.
It's interesting.
sati
I think
rites.
it's like for people that don't take shelter of Krishna, that would be even beneficial for them. Because what we are protecting, actually, we are not protecting the body. Who cares about the body? You're protecting what? What is the most important thing we have to protect?
So you are suggesting that they should have actually not done and actually have taken the onslaught from the Muslim invaders?
The best would be if they were just taking shelter of Krishna, and then Krishna would protect them.
Yes.
That would be the best, of course. And then in the case if they didn't, I mean, I'm sure that many women there was also Krishna conscious, and that they probably take shelter of Krishna, and they actually end up in the spiritual world. And of course, I even like, what is the biggest thing we have to protect? Of course, not kind of giving a hints of physical about harming yourself. We are trying to protect our consciousness. This is the most, like, when I come to my parents' house, I always pray, please Krishna, protect my consciousness. Don't let me forget you. Don't let me, start thinking that I can do this by myself, or I can protect myself, or, nothing will be if I do this or that. Please protect my consciousness. So, sometimes Krishna doesn't protect our body. He protects our consciousness. He's like, if he sees like, okay, sometimes he allows that devotee even gets hurt and maybe even leaves his body. But he's trying to protect your consciousness of being Krishna conscious, being conscious of Krishna or a higher consciousness. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to raise a consciousness. So if a person's, let's say, if that woman would kind of come to a state where she would be without a shelter, and she will be like afraid and panicking and abused in so many ways, maybe it's like it would be maybe more degrading for her if she doesn't take shelter, if she's not taking shelter of Krishna, to even just kind of piously end this life. I think it's like soldiers, isn't it, in the war, in Vedic wars, the soldiers, it's like better for them to die on the battlefield than to retreat. The consciousness of surrender, of serving, it gives them better material results. We speak about material results, isn't it? I don't know. Like, you tell me what you think.
I think Sridevi Mataji has her hands raised, so maybe she might comment on that, but yes.
It's not right to say that these women didn't take shelter of Krishna and so they had no choice except to commit johar. That's not a correct interpretation, because in those days, death was preferable to dishonor. They didn't care for their bodies. Dishonor was worse than death. And so to be raped or to be, dishonored by the Mughals was much worse than death.
Exactly.
And so they gave up their bodies by jumping into a well, or as Prabhu says, committing johar, because they were very, first and foremost, the Rajputs are known to be very brave, very, very brave. So just as the warriors, the males were very brave, the women also were. They were women, they were queens. So the Kshatriyas and Kshatranis, they are both of the same caliber, extremely brave. And so when the queens realized that they're going to fall into the Mughals' hands, they preferred to commit sati or johar rather than fall into the hands of the Muslims. Because for one thing, Hindu caste is different, Muslim caste is different. And if those fellows come, they knew what would happen. So therefore, they committed sati in order to save themselves from dishonor. They didn't care for the peace.
Exactly.
Yeah, just pointing that out.
I'm just, why? Because I have in mind, these kind of saintly Vaishnavis that we have, like in, the wife of Nityananda, we are speaking about like really highly elevated Vaishnavis. They're just fixing Krishna consciousness. They actually don't consider any like political or external situations, because I'm speaking about those Vaishnavis, the ones that were like fully taking shelter of Krishna. They even that doesn't notice what's happening politically outside, because they're always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So I'm speaking about that. The ones that are like the consciousness is already in the spirit, in the Goloka Vrindavan. Though like those, they are, of course, they are rare shows, so they are not like like they are not so common. I was thinking about those. When I was speaking about those taking shelter of Krishna, I was thinking about those Vaishnavis, really, really high elevated, and because they are not on the bodily platform anymore. Then that's why. So it doesn't contradict with what you're saying. That's what I want to say. Hello? That was okay? I was understood?
Yes, Prabhuji. Shilpesh Prabhu, you have your hands raised as well.
Yes, I was just going to say exactly what Sri Devi Mataji said. It's a Kshatriya code of conduct, and that's it's hard for us to understand because we're not Kshatriyas from that time period. But I was really shocked to learn that in the partition of India, the Sikhs actually did the same thing to their wives and children to protect them from the Muslims as well. So it's in very recent history. This, they were still undertaking it because they're Kshatriyas, and like Mataji said, it's the code of honor. So yeah, I was really shocked to hear that when I first read it. But today's discussion has really made me understand why they do this, why these things happen in the world. So yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
You just take shelter of Krishna, Prabhu.
Sorry?
You take shelter of Krishna, and he'll protect you.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got 5 minutes remaining. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, all glories to all the foundations, dictionaries. That's an interesting conversation. I sometimes wonder why we get hung up too much on this male-female thing, because normally we're always trying to focus on not the body, but we're all spirit souls, we're all the same to some extent. But it's interesting hearing you mention what we've often heard in Shastra as well, where the men should have brahmachari training from an early age. I think that was probably perfect in the earlier days. Whereas in the current environment, I noticed that many brahmacharis, whilst they can have perfectly okay, acceptable relationships with the Matajis when they're doing their service, when it comes to the finer or deeper relationships, like husband-wife, extended family, children, male, female children, then they struggle a bit when it comes to they'll come out and say things. You think, no, you can't do that, say that, because they struggle with the finer sensitivities of the relationship between the male and the female, like husband and wife, because whilst you need the Krishna consciousness training, you also need some kind of training, or maybe it's just experience, to understand, you can't say certain things, you can't do certain things, and sometimes even though you might think you're saying the right thing, you might still get in trouble, because there are, as Sri Devi Mataji says, the Matajis are more emotional, and they're more motivated by how they feel. And even in the same situation, just because something worked previous time, everything might look exactly the same, but they may feel totally different about it the next time. and the answer would be different every time. So I guess that can only be worked through the experience and how you build that relationship between you. Because I find like, yeah, you have to be just extra sensitive. I think it's easier with the male relatives because they tend to be more based on, you know, this is what I think, logic, etc. But yeah, it's a bit more complicated with females. But I did have a question also, because we hear about, obviously it's not so applicable nowadays because you don't find that kind of relationship. So you don't have, you know, the fully chaste women that end up going on to the funeral pyre of their deceased husbands. But even in Gandhari's case, it's like she could have had so much more, because her husband, although he had many, many great qualities, he was actually taking her away from Krishna because of his attachment. And she could have had so much more, because if he wasn't so attached, she could have easily have gone to Golok Vrindavan. So there's something there about they should, at what stage should they like reject the husband because they're blocking them from the path that they should be on?
So what stage should a person reject its authorities, or like a woman reject a husband if the husband is taking her away from Krishna consciousness? Is it? And Gandhari is speaking that, you know, she also saw what will happen and how she will stick to her husband. For sure there had to be some attachment to her husband, that she didn't want to leave Krishna. She didn't want to leave and be Krishna conscious and kind of go to this destiny. So she kind of chose this destiny in some way or another to go to this path and follow her husband the whole way, which was also glorious by itself, because it is just showing, I think that she's one of the most chaste women in the history, if I understood. So interesting is like, how come that she didn't notice, or did she notice that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Did she ever notice this? Because many, like a small amount of people even noticed. I think it's like from millions of people that saw Krishna in person, that only like handful of them understood that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Kunti Devi is one of them. Kunti Devi is one of those persons who understood who Krishna is. So I don't have the answer why she didn't saw it. Did she ever saw that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Did she ever doubt it or not? Did she had any pious, like Agyata Sukriti? Because having a piety doesn't mean that you will get bhakti, that you will get devotion for Krishna. I think at Madhurya Kandamani in our last retreat, we were speaking like, where does bhakti comes? It doesn't come from piety, it doesn't come from Krishna itself. It comes from bhakti makes bhakti, which means that if a Kunti Devi would speak to Gandhari about Krishna, maybe she would get some bhakti for Krishna and some attachment to Krishna. But she didn't had, Krishna didn't allow it, Krishna didn't made it. Maybe she refused it. Maybe Krishna didn't like what she did. She didn't get the Bhakti Lata beach. She was so pious and everything. She had a perfect life. And if she just had a Bhakti Lata beach, probably she would be a pure devotee. And we are not perfect in our Vedic duties, but we have Bhakti Lata reach. We have spiritual master. So who is more fortunate? Interesting, isn't it? So maybe we can say that we are much more fortunate than Gandhari.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vrsabh Prabhu, thank you so much for the class and nice discussion by all devotees. Thank you so much. Dhyana Prabhu has to leave, so I'm taking over. So, Haribol. Bhadra Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Just quick comment, and
Please.
just I wanted to share. I still am not quite clear when about Gandhari's position in reference to her being devotee or not. Even after following, like Scarlet Mataji mentioned, or the hardest way to, and the most chaste wife, and still we can't see her as a devotee. Is that right? And we can't, that's I'm not quite clear, and I don't know whether there is a clear answer for that.
It reminds me of a question of Sambandha Abhidya Prayojana. And you can see that even like this is actually a common question regarding like why we do have 4 regulative principles. Why do we have 16 chanting 60 rounds? Why do we have things to avoid yama niyama? Why do we have all these things? If by themselves they will not give you bhakti. Mayavadi sannyasis are much more austere and advanced in renunciation and studying the Vedas than most of the devotees. I think Kishore Babaji was even illiterate. He knew actually 1 song, I think, or 2 songs, and he said that all the points, all the conclusions of the Shastra are to these 2 songs. And now we can say like, okay, then you have like some pious lady that has a pure devotion for Krishna, and you have Gandhari, who is like the most chaste woman, that can turn your son into iron, So it's quite a mystic power. I think it's like many discourses saying that because of the chastity, woman gets supernatural powers. But is there any? But the question is, the devotee is not regarding in how much sattvic it is. Devotee Vaishnava is not like a Brahmana. Brahmana is following all the sattvic rules, but he's not a Vaishnava. And he said that if he's not a Vaishnava, he cannot even purify himself fully. But the Vaishnava, even though he's not fully on the level of Brahmana, he can purify the whole world. Why? Because he has pure devotion for Krishna. He has Krishna in his heart. So is a Gandhari a devotee or not? Depends on how much love for Krishna she has. Not because like all this chastity and all of these things are conducive to bhakti, and it's a firm soil for bhakti to come. And without that, even if somebody gives you a seed, it will not flourish. So yes, this is important, so much so that we get bhakti. But if you didn't get bhakti by itself, it's not useful. So is a Gandhari a devotee or not? It doesn't seem like it from all of this. I don't know, maybe some insight from some. It doesn't seem like, because is she attached to Krishna? Is she loves Krishna? Is she have any devotion for Krishna or not? Or for the devotees of Krishna at least? These devotees of Krishna. So if somebody else doesn't have any argument, I would say no. So let's see.
Yeah, you're right, Vrsabh Prabhu. She is not described as a devotee. She is described as a very chaste wife. She is described as an ascetic. She is described as an ideal wife, ideal mother, ideal queen. But nowhere is there any description of her glorifying Krishna or praying to Krishna, like how we have Queen Kunti. You know, we have Queen Kunti's prayers, we have Queen Kunti's, turning to Krishna, like that. She is a devotee. She's a queen and she's a devotee. But Gandhari is famous for her chastity, for being the ideal wife, ideal mother, ideal queen, like that. But there is no description of her being a devotee of Krishna. I have not read that anywhere.
Okay.
It's
No,
like a
thank you
Munis,
very
you know.
much.
You have a lot of these Munis, really powerful Munis, but they are not devotees of Krishna. So what's the point
Yeah.
of being a great Muni?
Yeah. No, thank you. It clarifies a lot. And just one point I wanted to share. Once Braj Bihari Prabhu gave class in Manner, is reference to what Raj Prabhu just mentioned, that men should be trained as a brahmachari properly to protect women. Is like a leader in society, even though women are not very knowledgeable, still when leaders are knowledgeable, then they knows even women are calling out for whatever reason. And what Prabhuji mentioned, that we if we see leaders in society these days, they are not leading properly. That's why the society is degrading so much and not being protected properly. So I just wanted to raise that. And it feels like, when parents are not knowledgeable, how can they protect and how can they guide to the children? If parents are have knowledge and they are devotees, then they know how to.
They should have mentors, authorities, leaders that they take shelter of, and that they are then depending on the knowledge and the faith, they're like in trust to authority, and then actually they are getting the knowledge from authority. Because this is the difference between brahmanas and kshatriyas. Because brahmanas don't do much; they advise and they are looking over things that is going through the shastra beneficial. They're actually giving guidance. They're understanding the problem, and they're kind of empowering other people to do the job. Because if the brahmanas get into the passion mode, and this passion mode usually can overcome sattva, then actually they're not anymore. They don't, when you start doing something, you have to plan it before, because when you start doing things, you cannot now, reset and see, okay, where are we going? You're too much into doing things. So yeah, it's that's why Krishna Prabhupada wanted our communities to have our food, to have our guidance, to have our society, which we are actually making our own environment. We are making our own knowledge. We are making our own education, everything that is conducive to actually have a human life, and then hopefully a spirit, Krishna conscious life. So it's I don't know. It's my big desire. It's I think me and Sri Devi are burning, a burning of desire to raise a farm community. I mean, some community, anything, some community. So it's crazy. We just have to separate from this world to make a new world. We have to.
No, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Please for coming.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Sorry for raising my hands a little bit late, and we are late for time. Sorry about that.
Yeah. It is Shrimati is calling here the cards.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nice class and nice discussion. Any more questions or comments, dear devotees?
I wanted to thank Vrsabh Prabhu for speaking on such a sensitive subject so intelligently and so sensitively, because it is not so easy to discuss these topics. They're very, very sensitive, and women feel upset, men feel upset, and so on. But today's discussion was so nice that I think all of us became very thoughtful, and it gave a lot of insights also. And I think we felt compassion for the people of Kali Yuga who are suffering so much due to the ill effects of Kali, and how fortunate we are to come to Krishna consciousness. So I want to thank Vrsabh Prabhu, because the very first thing he said at the start of the class is really it just rings true and it stays with me. The first thing he said almost in the beginning was, we become so grateful to the people who help us become more and more Krishna conscious, that is the devotees. So men, women, children, old, young, it doesn't matter. We are all in this together, and we have to just help each other become Krishna conscious. So very nice class, Vrsabh Prabhu. Thank you. My humble obeisances.
Jai, all your mercy.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you so much, Mataji. Nice comments. Thank you. Okay, devotees, if there are no more questions or any comments, I think we can end the call here. Thank you once again, Vrsabh Prabhu. We look forward to your classes more. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Jai Gurudev ki jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you. Vrsabh Prabhu ki jai.
Vrsabh Prabhu ki jai. Vaishnav Sadhu Sangha ki jai.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.